Tractate Sanhedrin. We're going to study today fascinating Daf, page 11. We'll start on page 10b, 4 lines from the top of the page, just the introduction. The idea of the calendar, the solar calendar, the lunar calendar, it's a core part of our discussion. In the Gregorian world, in the Christian world, in general civil world, obviously they go by the solar calendar, which is they take the time that the entire universe basically goes around by the sun, and it goes by the notion of the 365 days. The sun go around the entire universe, and therefore you divided it to 12 different portions, and each of them you call in a modern days a definition of which we call a month. And with that, it's in a way you can't argue and say that months meaning exact 30 days, because obviously it's something that we as people divided it, but you said that since it's a little more than 30 days, in the kind of more definition you go by the 30 days and about 6.5 hours, they rule in general by the solar calendar to have it a 30 days period. Some of them, the month exceeded to 31 days, while, for example, the month of February, you go for 28 days. Some months we have 29 days. The Muslims, however, they go by the lunar, it's the Levana, and that's go by the other way around. If you see the symbol of the Islam, especially countries like Turkey, etc., you see the moon, and you see that the way that they count it, they take the moon, the way the moon goes around the universe in total, which is 29 days and 12 hours plus about 793 small portion of the hours. It's about, you can divide it an hour, just give it approximate, is 1/4080 per hour, which is again approximately 44 minutes. That's about this type of 12 months. It's 354 days, which they call the Shnat Levana, the lunar year. Now, the way that the Torah law comprise is basically you go by the lunar in that sense, but you also go in part by the solar. The way that our holy sages derived it, they took several verses. For example, in the book of Shmot, in Exodus chapter 12, verse 2, book of Bamidbar, chapter 28, verse 14, book of Dvarim, Deuteronomy, chapter 16, verse 1, the Maimonides in Ilchot Kiddush HaChodesh, in chapter 1, elaborates. He said, in general, you can go by the moon, by the lunar way, but that's more kind for the months. When it's come to the definition of the Jewish years, you go by the sun, by the solar. So it means in order to complete the differentiation in a 12 months period between the solar and the lunar, which is the difference between the lunar of 354 days versus the solar, which is 365 days, we need to quote unquote me'aber, to leap the year, which is we need to add another month. It's called Chodesh HaIbur, the months that, like someone who's pregnant, like someone who put in addition something, which is the second of the month of Adar, the second month of Adar, which is some of the years, it's a lunar, Levana, it's the moon years, which is 12 months, which is the days, it's about 353 days, 354 or 55 days, and some of them it's the 13 months of the lunar, the Levana, which is the 383, 384, 385. So we call it, if you listen in the synagogue, before Rosh Chodesh we announce the time, we call it the Molad. HaMolad Yihiyah, you see it in the Luach, in the calendar and other places. They announce the exact time, the exact date and time that we call upon the months. That's the idea is there is a cycle of the moon that comes every 12 months. So since we have differentiation each and every month, and since we follow the Gemara in Megillah, we study page 5, that the Torah law, we do not go by half of the days. So therefore we have in the Jewish calendar, as Hillel instituted, some months comprise of 29 days. It's called Chaserim, not full months, and some 30 days, which is either complete or Me'ubar. Me'ubar, as we said, it's the leap. So therefore, the way that the rabbis do it, in the old days, it was the Bet Din that sent emissaries, they sent agents to confirm the time, which is they go by the witnesses, they see top of the mountain, they see where the moon appears, they come back, they testified, and then they make it the exact day. But the way that they have now followed the Hillel institution, it's a very clear calendar, as the Rashba said, to the end of the day. So we have a very clear time for a sanctification of the month. So the way that our Mishnah tells us, in both the sanctification of the month and sanctification of the year, they have to have a decorum of 3 expert, quote-unquote, judges, and that's the way the Ramban tells us in the book of Mitzvot, the book of commandment, positive commandment 153. He said that that's the way they instituted. The Rambam, the Maimonides, in the Sefer HaMitzvot, in both there and also Ilchot Kiddush HaChodesh, the law of sanctification of the month, chapter 5, said that no, you have to have the Sanhedrin Gedolah, the supreme rabbinic court in Yerushalayim, and he said that the judges that involve is the judges, the quorum of judges that get a special consent from the Supreme Court to sanctify the month. Now, obviously, there is a differentiation between the time of the temple and the time after the temple. The source of that is the Almighty said to Moses and Aaron in the book of Shmot, chapter 12, HaChodesh, this month, Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodashim, which means both of them, Moses and Aaron, need to sanctify the new months. So therefore, since we learn already both here and Rosh Hashanah, page 25, that in order to have the Bet Din, you have to have uneven. So these two, Moses and Aaron, in that sense, for the modern days, need to add another judge to make it uneven, which is Beit Din Shakul de Shlosha, the 3, and that comprise a form of Bet Din. Now, there are basically several definitions we need to remember before we go further. There is a one view, it's a four different avenues. One said that happened all the times. Another one said that it never happened. Another one hold that it was 30 days, and another one hold that it was 31 days. Now, why is that? It's because when it's come to Kiddush HaChodesh, when it's come to sanctification of the new months, the witnesses appear before the court. They basically examine them. they in a way examined them and interrogated them to make sure that they're really truthful and they see the new moon, and there by their testimony the Beit Din sanctified the new months, which means they said Mekudash, this new month, this Rosh Chodesh is the time that we sanctify. That's called Kiddush HaChodesh. Another one, it's called Ibur HaChodesh, make a month that you don't have the witnesses that saw this sanctification of the new month by the 30 days, and therefore they basically make it for the 31st day, if there are circumstances that force it. And then we have the Chishuv HaChodesh, which means if the Beit Din see the need to make the months a leap months, so they make the real time they think it's proper for the Molad, and then if it's a too big distance, they didn't make Ibur HaChodesh. It will be no less than 4 months in a year in those days, in order to avoid any form of people who mock the Beit Din, who didn't take it properly, respectfully, seriously. More on that in Gemara in Tractate Erchin, pages 8 and 9. So as we said, today we're going to discuss that decorum and how exactly it works. It's important to know that, as we said, the Ramban, the Nachmanides said that all of that form of sanctification of the new month applies to the time that Beit HaMikdash, the Holy Temple, was not in existence, and therefore you have Shlosha Dayanim Mumchim, 3 expert judges that have the consent to sanctify the months, that if it was in existence, as the Rambam instructed us, it said that it was only by the Supreme Rabbinic Court in Yerushalayim, Rak al Yedei Bedin HaGadol, and therefore they do it, meaning that you have Bedin HaGadol Yerushalayim, the Supreme Rabbinic Court, that ordain or approve or appointed with the special consent a decorum of court, that they, by this appointee, has the right as expert judges to sanctify the months. So with that said, it's important that we mention something kind of more mystical, more esoteric, kind of a spiritual in that sense. This is something you see in both here in our Gemara, and you see it also in the in Yotzrot. As you know that in some Sidurim you have a special section at the very end of the Sidur that is called Yotzrot. So in the Yotzrot, which is an extra poetry by great rabbis, one of them is Rabbi Eliezer HaKalir. There is a street named after him in Yerushalayim. So in the Piyut LeParashat Shkalim, so one of the Torah portion that involved the time before the time of Purim, there is a Piyut, there is a special poem that's written by him that it's called Avi Kol Chozeh. So over there, he said that, you see also in the book called Binyan Shlomo, that the same way as we say by the end of the Kaddish, Oseh Shalom Bimromav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu, that it means that it's kind of metaphysical, or up there is a heavenly court, and they in a way communicate with the earthly court. In that sense, it's kind of a approval in both parties. You see Sun Tosfot, other sources, the book called Sofnat Pa'aneach and others that speak about it, but the idea is it's called Malchuta Dirki'ah, that in a way, when we sanctified in our Beit Din, it's sanctified in heaven and vice versa, which means it is a time that in our language the Beit Din has the divine providence, the authority which we believe that make this strong connection, and therefore that happens. Soon you see it, it's fascinating studies. We're going also to study other subjects, relatively agadita, relatively relate to Jewish thought, theology, philosophy, and teaching. For example, if a person allowed to exaggerate the truth, change something in those rare cases in order to create peace, especially peace between husband and wife, certain rare cases that there are exceptions. Obviously, we are prohibited to lie, but there are certain exceptions. It's called shinui leman hashalom. Also, general terms, since we are in a period of 9 days, right? David already comments over my beard. So since we are this time, obviously the teaching of our rabbis is that destruction of the second temple was because of causeless hatred between man and his fellow, and therefore part of our study today is those stumbling blocks and hopefully how we'll be able to overcome them. So here we are. We're going to study page 11, but we'll start on page 10b, 4 lines from the top of the page. Ibur HaChodesh Bishlosha. The intercalation of the months, which means that making the month as a month that it's different, it's a extension of the month, as we explain, needs to have the quorum of 3 rabbis. So as we said, that there are four of you. Chishuv lo katanei, kiddush lo katanei, ela ibur. So the idea the Gemara explained to us, that the notion of Mishnah is the calculation that determines the month must be extended performed by 3 expert rabbinic judges, but we don't speak about sanctification and intercarnation of the months, which is the decision to extend the months by extra day, begin the following month on the 31st day instead of 30, is performed by the panel of the 3 judges. So the Gemara said, why we need to say that this month is the leap month? Lo likadsha umimeila le'abar. If we just by not sanctify the new months, therefore we have now the previous month that basically become a leap intercurrent the more, because the moment you sanctify the month by the next day, which is the 31st day of the previous month, so then when you say that this month is sanctified, it means that the previous day, the 30 days, belongs to the previous month. So therefore, obviously, naturally, this month become a leap one. So why we have the need for the rabbinic court to announce that the day of the 30, on the day of 30, that this month is intercalendar months. Amar Abayet Nei, the way that the Mishnah teaches us is Kiddush HaChodesh. The sanctification of the month needs to have 3 expert judges. It means by uttering the word Mekudash HaChodesh, that this month is sanctified, beginning of each and every month, since the previous month were either chaser meaning not complete, or maleh, which is the completes, it means, as we study in Rosh Hashanah, page 24, regardless if the moon appear and on the proper day, which is the 30 day from the previous month, or if you don't, which is the following, the 31st day, we sanctify it. Soon you see a different view, but that's in order to make these utterances, this declaration of the month, you need to have a decorum of 3 expert rabbinic judges. Tanya name hachi, kiddush hachodesh ve'ibur hashana bishlosha, the sanctification of the new months, and then make the year as a leap year. You need to have 3 expert judges, divrei Rabbi Meir, which means we learn about Kiddush HaChodesh, the sanctification of the new month, and not Ibur HaChodesh, to make the month as a intercurrent months. So Rava challenged what Abaye said. Amar Rava veha ibur katane. So Rava said, wait a second. The way that he said, the Mishnah teaches us the ibur, the intercarnation, that's the way we learn it, not the word sanctification. So they even sometimes the language of the Tana is to add or subtract word. We cannot say that it was kind of mistake in the girsa, in the expression, between the word sanctification, which is kiddush, to the word ibur. So therefore, the question returned to our table: what's the purpose of the rabbinic judges, the rabbinic court of the Bet Din, to announce that this month is me'ubar? So therefore, we need to go to a different direction. And now we said, Ela Amar Rava. Rava said to us that Kiddush Beyom Ibur. He basically means 2 letters. That's like the Radrama said, we see it sometimes in the Gemara, an expression, Chasurei mechasra v'hachiktani. We miss something, and that's the proper way to say it. Kiddush, we said that it was a sanctification. Beyom Ibur, which is the new months of the 30 days of the 4th month, which is the day that would otherwise be the intercalendation. This is done by 3 rabbinic judges. Bishlosha. Achar Ibur Leika Kiddush. However, when a day pass of that Ibur, of that the month is sanctified only sanctified by on the 31st day. So therefore, he said, Leika Kiddush, you do not have an active sanctification, is no need for active sanctification. Umani, whom this Mishnah goes by, so they said, Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Tzadoki Ditnan. This is Mishnah in Tractate Rosh Hashanah we study, page 24. Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Tzadok Omer, Im lo nir'a bizmano, if the new moon was not seen in its anticipated time, which is at the 30th day of the previous month, which is, the Rambam tells us that's the eve, Lel Shloshim, the eve of the 30. That's called Zmano. The time of the lunar, the Levana, is 29 days, 12 hours, and 793 Chalakim. So therefore, sometimes it appears in a different way, but that's the way the Rambam explains. So he said, En mekadshin oto, the Bedin not sanctify the month, shekvar kidshuhu bashamayim, because in the heaven there was already sanctified. So that's precluding the need for the additional sanctification by our court, by the earthly court. So several points. Number one, as we said earlier, based on the book Tzofnat Pa'aneach Ilchot Kiddush HaChodesh, Binyan Shlomo al Yerushalmi and others, they said that it was like in heaven they sanctified, and it's happened in earth as a result. Tosfot bring, Tosfot Rosh as well, that in our language, when the heavenly court sees that the earthly court not sanctify the 30 days, they make it at the 31st day as the Rosh Chodesh. Based on that, it's the halacha that if someone regular Rosh Chodesh forget to say Ya'aleh v'yavo at the eve before Rosh Chodesh, so by halacha it does not need to repeat Ya'aleh v'yavo, versus if it happens on the day itself. I heard it from the great Rabbi Kanievsky, father of Yaakov Kanievsky, the stipler, he said that Talmidei Chachamim, Torah scholar, always should put in writing their teaching. He said that the reason it's because sometimes we do not do the mitzvah or referring to the source or know the source. So it was a great, I would say, giant Torah scholar in the old days in the city of Vilnius, the Lithuanian city of Vilna. And his name is Rabbi Abba Basafla. I hope I spell it right. But the one who brought him is in a book, Chaye Adam. My late father, may rest in peace, taught Chaye Adam daily for many, many years. So in the book Chaye Adam, he brought Rabbi Avram Basafla that said that sometimes we do not know when exactly it's Rosh Chodesh. So he said that if someone made a mistake, as we learned earlier, and forget to say Ya'aleh v'yavo, so in a regular case of the month, as we said, he should not recite it, but he go further to explain, and he said, when it's come to the eve of Rosh Hashanah, as you know, Rosh Hashanah, it's also Rosh Chodesh, right? The hour obviously is Yom Adin, is Day of Judgment. We don't treat it the same as regular Rosh Chodesh in the sense of Hallel, it's a Day of Judgment. But as far as the concept of Rosh Chodesh, it is. So he said, if in the eve of Rosh Hashanah someone did not say HaMelech HaKadosh, as you know, in a general halacha, if you do not remember to switch from Hakel HaKadosh to HaMelech HaKadosh in a phrase of several seconds, Shalom Alecha Rabbi Umori, you have to repeat the Amidah. But he says in the eve of Rosh Hashanah, it's not. Why? Again, not lechatchila, only b'diavad, only in a hindsight, on in after fact, because he said in his view is the same as Rosh Chodesh. In Rosh Chodesh in the evening, if one forget to say Ya'aleh v'yavo, so the same concept as we said that the difference between the evening and after the famous Rambam, the same applies here. The Mishnah Berurah challenged that. The Mishnah Berurah said that make up your mind, if is a Shmona Esrei Shel Yom Tov, is the evening prayer that applies to the festival, Mima Nafshach, so make up your mind, if it's your Yom Tov, if it's the holiday prayer, so therefore, the same as Birkat HaMazon, you can't do that. But eventually, that's the Chaye Adam Mevi, that it's okay. Again, only b'diavad. The great Rav Moshe Feinstein, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, he explained, he said that we have to differentiate between the eve and the day because he said we call it Yom Hadin, the Day of Judgment, and as we learn many times, the court session, it's not at night, it's during the day, and then he ruled b'diavad, if someone, it's not lechatchila, but b'diavad, someone needs to pray the prayer of Rosh Hashanah before the nets, meaning before the time of the sunrise. So lechatchila, obviously the poskim said it should be after the nets. But if someone by force of circumstance need to pray the morning davening of Rosh Hashanah before the nets, so he said it's a problem. Because before the nets, you don't, lo danim b'shamayim, you don't judge, you don't make a rabbinic court session at night, and then that's apply according to Rav Moshe Feinstein, the same halachot b'diavad for HaMelech HaKadosh at night of the Rosh Hashanah versus the day. But again, we do not have enough time to elaborate, I just give you the framework. One should encourage to see it both in a Chaye Adam and in a Mishnah Berurah. So Rav Nachman Amar Kiddush Achar Ibur Bishlosha. Rav Nachman tells us that in an instance of sanctification of the new month, after the Ibur, after the intercalation of the months, through the additional of the 30 days to the previous month, the sanctification is performed by 3 rabbinic judges, Bishlosha. So the Gemara said, Beyom Ibur Leika Kiddush. At the 30 days, we do not have to have a court session for sanctifications. So it means, he explained the Adroma, said he's not contradicting, just explain the Mishnah that we sanctified the month on the 31st day, which means that the entire previous month is me'ubar. And he said, Umani plimohi, the Tanya plimo omer, bizmano, if the moon appear in the proper time, ein mekadshin oto, which means it's the new moon was reported at its anticipated time. The rabbinic court does not sanctify the new moon, but if the new moon reported not at its anticipated time, shelo bizmano mekadshim oto, the rabbinic court sanctifies the new moon. So here you have both the Rambam, you see the Rashba, they said that basically the Rashba said that the way that Hillel sanctified all this month, it wasn't just for that time, it was ad bi'ad goel tzedek, until the time that we have, God willing, the Mashiach. That's the up to that time Hillel already set it up in advance. That's the Rashba. Less explanation of our Mishnah. Rav Ashi amar le'olam chishuv katane. You have to say that these rabbinic judges are necessary for the calculation to determine when the new month should be declared. Umay ibu, and what's the exactly lelib, the intercalation that the Mishnah referring? Chishuv the ibu, the calculation of this type of making it as a leap one. Ve'aide de kabay lemitnei ibur shana, tanenami ibur chodesh. Because the previous statement in the Mishnah talk about intercalation of the year, make the year a leap year, which is both either chishuv or kiddush. So therefore, we also mention the word, the intercalation of the month. So it's described to similar process of adding to the year and adding to the month with the same verb. Chishuv chodesh ein, kiddush chodesh la. Which means when it's come to calculation of the month, yes, you have to have 3 rabbinic judges. But when it's come to sanctification of the month, you do not have rabbinic judges. Mani, who is the one that require it? Rabbi Eliezer he. The Tanya Rabbi Eliezer Omer. Ben bizmano, ben shelo bizmano mekadshim oto. Whether it's reported on its time or it's not in the anticipated time, we do not sanctify the new month formally. Shene'emar, because it's stated, Vekidashtem et shnat hachamishim shana, and you shall sanctify the 50 years. That's Leviticus chapter 25. Shanim ata mekadesh, you must formally sanctify the years. Ve'i ata mekadesh chodashim, but you not formally sanctify the months, because they are sanctified automatically. So what you see here, in any case, when it's come to calculation, when you have to have the calculation, you have to have the decorum of 3 rabbinic judges. That's the one said from the word hachamishim, that the hey appear superfluous. So basically what you see here, it's 4 different views when it's come to Ibur HaChodesh. You have Abaye, you have Rava, you have Rav Nachman, and you have Rav Ashi. So Imrei Emet, the Gemarrah Rebbe, the previous, they ask a question, so what do you do in Rosh Chodesh? Can you do Mariv, the evening service earlier? Some people does that, especially in the summertime. Is that permissible to do Mariv early? Because if you do Mariv early, how you treated the Aleh V'Yavod, the sanctification earlier. So it was a letter that written to the Imrei Emet from the Kosher Rebbe, who said to him, he brought the Rambam, And the Rambam said, in one place he said that is the issue of Tosefet Shabbat, when one accepted Shabbat before its time. But even he have some challenges with that, still the Rambam hold in the final writing that it's okay to daven earlier, to pray earlier before Shabbat, to accept it. So in that sense, he compared it to Rosh Chodesh, that if there are circumstances you can do that. As we said, it's not preferable as advisable, but if there are circumstances that force it, you can do it. Anyway, it's based on our Gemara here. Now we go to a different phase in the Mishnah, that dealing with Ibur Hashana, the idea of making a year as a leap year. Now, the Meiri said, since we know that the solar year has more days than the lunar year, and when you basically collect it together, you add one each month at the end of the year, so therefore the whole purpose is to make the festival of Passover in the spring months. Pesach bechodesh ha'aviv. That's the Torah said on the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 16, Shamor et chodesh ha'aviv. This was the time that our nation sanctified by Re'iyah, meaning they sent their witnesses, and then they calculated the leap year, and that's the way they make Pesach on the proper time, unlike the Muslims. So basically for that purpose, you go, the Meiri said, the Ibur Hashana. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel omer bishlosha, which means you start with 3, then he said the 5, the Chamisha, Nosim venotnim, and you complete it with the 7 judges. They conclude the matter with 7 rabbinic judges. Tanya, we learn in the Tosefta. Keitzad amar Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. What does Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel say the interclination is to be conducted properly? Bishlosha matchilin. We start the session rabbinic court with deliberation of 3 rabbinic judges. Ubachamisha nosim venotnim. The whole in between of the debate go with the 5 rabbinic judges, and then vegomrim, and you conclude the final verdict with 7 rabbinic judges. So what you see, the first stage is the 3 rabbinic judges that convene for a primarily discussion, and then you have the debate, and then you go to the 7. So he said, Echad Omer Leishev, which means one of them says it's necessary to sit and deliberate the question of interclination, and the 2 say there is not need to sit to continue. The 1 against 2 is negated to its minority, which is it is the minority or opinion, and the process ends. However, Shnayim omrim lishev, ve'echad omer shelo lishev. If 2 say to sit, and 1 said not to sit, so here you have the majority decision causes the process to move to the next stage. Mosifin aleim od shnayim, ve'nosim ve'notim adavar. Now we add another 2 rabbinic judges. Now we go to the next step, which is, as we explained earlier, the Mishnah. You go to the stage of the debate. Shnayim omrim tzricha, ושלושה אומרים אינה צריכה. 2 said the year needs to be an extra month, and 3 said no, you don't need it. בשלו שניים במיעוטם. So again, you have here that there are 2 are negated in the minority. שלושה אומרים צריכה ושניים אומרים אינה צריכה. 3 rabbinic judges said you have the year needs it, and 2 said no. מוסיפים עליהם עוד 2. You have to add to that quorum 2 judges. שאין המניין, the quorum, פחות מ7. When it's come to the declaration of the leap, you have to have no fewer than 7 rabbinic judges. So now, the whole idea of numbers and the corresponding number, we need to know where it's coming from. הנה שלושה, חמישה ושבעה כנגד מי? The notion of having this gradation process of 3 rabbinic judges, 5 rabbinic judges, 7 rabbinic judges, to what is corresponding. So here you have a disputation between 2 great rabbis. פליגי בר רבי יצחק בר נחמני וחד דאימי ומנו, and who is רבי שמעון בן פזי, ואמרי לה רבי שמעון בן פזי וחד מיני ומנו רבי יצחק בן נחמני. The idea is this. חד אמר, one said כנגד ברכת כהנים. One said that it's corresponding to the number of Hebrew words in each of these 3 verses of the priestly benediction. We learn in the book of Numbers, book of Bamidbar, chapter 6, which is Yevarechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha, Yevarechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha, 3 words, Ya'er Hashem panav elecha v'yichuneka, it's 5 words, Yisa Hashem panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom, it's 7. So you have 3, 5, 7 in the benediction. So therefore, it's the equivalent. It's the book called Margaliot Hayam that elaborates on that and explain what's the connection between the two. They bring Gemara in Chulin 49 that the blessing is from the Almighty, and he brings it down there. We'll go there soon. But anyway, Vechad Amar, and the other one, he says that that's corresponding to what? To the 3 guards of the doors. That's the book of Judges. They said, ואחד אמר 3 כנגד שומרי הסף, 5 מרואי פני המלך, 7 רואי פני המלך. So when the king Tzidkiyahu doing the first Beit HaMikdash, they said ויקח רב טבחים ואת 3 שומרי הסף. So that's the Radak said, Rabbi David Kimchi said that was the 3 guardians in the Holy Temple, or Rashi said that the people were in charge for the temple treasury. So that's in equivalent to them that among the people who were exiled during the reign of King Tzidkiyahu in the first temple. 5 judges, rabbinic judges, in equivalent to what? 5 meroi pnei hamelech. That's what they said over there, that he took מן העיר לקח 5 אנשים מרואי פני המלך. 7 רואי פני המלך. So here you see a disputation between Rashi and Tosfot. Rashi said that we go by the book of Esther, the 7 people in the time of Achashverosh. Tosfot said that it's come from the book of Kings. By the end of תוספות בעגלה, נבוזרדן 3 שומרי הסף והם 5 רואי פני המלך, ובסוף ירמיה, bring the pasuk at the end of ירמיה. The last line in Rashi, he said it was ועיבור שנה מתכסיסי מלכות שמיים, על ישב סדר השנים על מכונם. תכסיסי, he used this term. Anyway, תרא רב יוסף, הנו 3 ו5 ו7, כנגד 3 שומרי הסף, 5 מרואי פני המלך, 7 רואי פני המלך. אמר לאביי לרב יוסף, עד העידנא, מה טעמה לו פריש לנמר האחי, up to this point, why you didn't explain to us the matter in this way, although you have taught this material before. That's, if you remember, we studied in Eruvin, that Rav Yosef, at the end of his life, forget, anyway, אמר להו לא הווה ידענה דצריכתו מבעיתו מנאי מלכה ולא אמרי לכו. You didn't ask me, that's the reason. So the Kosa Yeshuat explained, didn't ask up to this point, so I didn't tell you. It's not that I didn't know it. Anyway, there is a lot of explanation here. The whole idea of Birkat Kohanim is the Milui Yudim, Yud Yevarechecha, Yud Ya'er, Yud Yisa, the full word Yud. It's basically Yud and Vav and Dalet. It's 20 times 3. It's the 60. It's a lot of Kabbalistic interpretation. Just give you a little bit, you know my word, vignette, little bit, from the Kedushat Levi, from Rabbi Levi Yitzchak ben Bardichov, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak ben Sor Shash, Zchuto Yagen Aleinu. He said that, he asked a question, how come the Tzdokim, the Sadducees, in some matters they didn't fault the Pharisees, but when it's come to this matter, they fought tooth and nail the Bet Din. Why they tried to confuse the Bet Din? They sent the false witnesses, they lie, in a masuot, in a day sheker, all of that they did it. So he explained, because the pasuk said, Ki hi chochmatchem uvinatchem le'enei ha'amim. The Torah said that that's the wisdom of the Bet Din, that the beauty of the kviat Bet Din, it's something that it turns that even the whole other nations admitted that that's absolutely a beautiful structure to how to do it. So therefore that's basically cause the resentment. But I would like to add a few points to that. Number one, the whole idea, soon you see it in several places, when it's come to Dinene for short, when it's come to rabbinic court dealing with a serious capital law, you always start with the judges that it's like the beginner, not the well-respected, well-recognized, in order not to say that the ruler of the high judges already rule and the Lord just follow them. That's one way. But the Rambam said that that's apply also in Kiddush Hashanah, the same way in sanctification of the year. You go by the lower judges and you go uphill. The Rashash ask, we understand when it's come to Dinei Nefashot, when you're dealing with the capital law, but that the lower basically follow the higher. But when it's come to Ibur Hashanah, what exactly you concerned that the lower judge will not say exactly the higher judge? So he brings from the Yerushalmi that he said that the Ribono Shalom, the Almighty, gave a special authority to sages to rule. That's basically Tosfot said here fascinating that in the heaven they kind of waiting to see when is the Rosh Chodesh. So that's the idea what the Rambam said, that even Beibur Hashanah, even this the interclination, the leap year, you go by the lower judges to go up here. But the Ben Ish Chai, the Ben Yoyada, asked, how come you compare the idea of judges to Birkat Kohanim, the blessing of the priests? So he explained it, you see it also in the book called Iyun Yaakov. He explained that yes, the Kohanim give us the blessing, but the way the Torah said, Va'ani, meaning the Almighty, Avarchem. So they are like the agents, they are the shlichim. So the same way as the judges, the rabbinic judges receive this heavenly power, the authority from the Almighty. A famous midrash that said that when they rule something, it was a heavenly light that come and confirm that this is a leap year. So that sense is the same as Birkat Kohanim, that they are pipe of the Ashra'at Ashchina. It's a Hasidic story from the late Shinever Rebbe, that he was in one of those villages and he saw a simple Jews, that's the farmers that were Kohanim, and all of a sudden he looked at their fingers when they did the Birkat Kohanim, and he saw kind of spark of light, tremendous spark of light between their fingers when they make it. That's one of the reasons why they said that we cover our eyes when the Kohanim bless us. Tosfot Yom Tov explains that the Adayanim itnu brachot laKohanim, that the judges, the rabbinic judges, will bestow the blessing upon the priest in order that it's fulfilled. But that's basically, you see here what the Rashi tells us, that v'ibur shana mitachsisei malchut shamayim. The word tachsisei is something, if I have more time I will elaborate, but it's a very fascinating, deep concept, the intercorrelation between the heavenly court and the earthly court. So the upcoming 4 brightot, beginning with the word en me'abrin et hashana, and therefore you see this type of mnemonic device for the several of these brightot. Zman nasi tzarich gdi siman, Tanu Rabbanan. First one, the sages taught in a brighta, ein me'abrin et hashana ela, the year may be intercalated only, the way that you make the year a leap year, only page 11, Bim zu manimla. That's important because Rashi said she's minam anasi mi ba'erev, or Meiri said from etmol, from yesterday, which means the Truma tradition said that anything like that has to be kind of set up in advance. By the way, since we talked Truma tradition, just as a side note, is a beautiful shach, the Siftei Choen. Truma tradition, for those who are not so familiar in halacha, we have the code, we have the Shulchan Aruch, and a lot of piskei halacha, halachic rulings, we not only go by the code, we go also by a responsa, because the reality is a lot of practical law, if I may say, is based on practical way that people come to the great Rabbonim, they ask questions and they respond. So it was one of those giant rabbi that wrote this book, Truma Tradition, but it was not based on practical question that people ask, was indirectly question that people ask, but not a question answered by people, and he divided it by the days of the year, and it was question and answer that he quote made up the question. And the Shach challenged that, and he said, how you take that as a regular halachic ruling based on the made up question. But anyway, the whole idea of Truma Tradition here, they said that it has to be a night before. So, in a sense, the Torat Chaim, Margalit Hayam, the Rambam, they all say that it gives each Dayan, each one of them, a time to kind of to think about it, to consider or reconsider if it's a proper to do it. Maaseh Rabban Gamliel, she'amar, either the one said it to his assistant or someone, he says, Hashkimu li shiv'a la'aliyah, which means he asked to have a session of 7 judges in order to have this court session. So the idea, the Adrama said, it's not that we rule by 7. It was, if it turns the way we explained earlier, that there is a need to go in a level of gradation between 3 to 5 to 7, so let's bring to my study session, to my aliyah, upper chamber, 7 expert judges to have a court session over this. Heshkimu matzah shmona. So Rabban Gamliel came earlier and he noticed that there are 8 rabbinic judges there. Amar mihu she'ala shelo birshut yered. Who invited only 7? I notice here that we have 8. So Rabbeinu Nisim explained that since he's not asked them to come, but he asked his assistant to call upon them to come, therefore he doesn't in a way want to embarrass anyone, but he asked only for 7 to appear. Another way is that he said that bring 7. So in a sense, the Adama said that someone came here who wasn't asked to come. There's a few versions. The Marsha explained that his assistants brought double 7 or more than he asked. Anyway, it's a few variations what exactly happened. But it was a great tzaddik, it was a great man. You see his name in the Pirkei Avot, you see his name as a epitome of humbleness, and by his merely name it's beautiful. Amar Shmuel HaKatan ve'amar. One of the great sages was named is Shmuel. You see in the big rabbis in the past generation, they signed the papers, the signature of letters, always Ani HaKatan or HaKatan. So anyway, he stood up and he says, Ani hu shaliti shelo birshut, ולא לעבר השללתי אלא ללמוד הלכה למעשה הוצרכתי. I'm the one who came here without permission. I just came here because I want to learn, not because that I want to be part of this decorum. I just want to understand the need of the halacha. The Yerushalmi said that I have a specific halachic question. That's the reason that I'm here. So soon you see that others say that he did it because he doesn't want to embarrass other people, but it wasn't really him. But anyway, Amar lo shev nishev. Rabban Gamliel was such a wonderful teacher and judge. He says, sit, my son, sit. ראויות כל השנים כולם לדבר על ידך. All the years should be announced and proclaimed as a leap year by you. אלא אמרו חכמים, הם מעברים את השנה האלה במזומנים לה, I just follow the sage's ruling, that in order to make the year a leap year, we need to have a calling session upon those judges, and those judges who call upon, they are basically the people who make those decisions. So therefore, you cannot be part of this session of back and forth and debate when it's come to this subject. ולא שמואל הקטן, but the rabbi said that it wasn't him, which means it wasn't him that appeared without invitation. אלא איניש אחרינה ומחמת כיסופה ודעבד. It was not Shmuel, it was someone else, but Shmuel was such a righteous man, pious, that he doesn't want to embarrass any rabbinic judge there. So he, quote unquote, confesses, and he said, the Sefer Hasidim said, and others, that he, in a way, you can call it, I don't know if it's right to say exaggerate the truth, or whatever it is, he just did it in order not to embarrass another fellow. Obviously, we can see the greatness of that. Obviously, there is Or Sameach, there are many others, the Marsha, many Meiri, Adrama, many explanations what exactly happened. But let's just continue because there's a lot to study today. כי הדיאטיב רבי וכדריש וריח ריח שום. So it was time that, as you know, garlic carries a Gemara in Brachot, and others said that the garlic carries this extraordinary smell. אמר מי שאכל שום יצא. He was very sensitive to the odor of garlic. So he said, whoever ate garlic should go out. אמר רבי חייא ויצא. עמדו כולם ויצאו. So רבי חייא left and the students left, follow him. בשחר מצאו רבי שמעון ברבי לרבי חייא, אמר לי, אתה הוא שציירת לאבא? You are the one who did it to my father, which means by the odor it come from your mouth. אמר לו, no, לא תהיה כזאת בישראל, it's not me. I did it because I didn't want to embarrass the one who did it. And the Aruch LaNer said that that's the reason why everyone followed me. They just want to not to embarrass a specific person. It's a story about the Lithuanian city of Brisk. So when it's come to Shchita, in those days they used to slaughter, so they used to do some violation of the government law, violation of Jewish law, etc. So the great Reb Velvele of Brisk convened all the important leaders of the community to talk about this crisis in the city when it's come to Shchita. So one of the butchers appeared there uninvited. So people said he should not be at this meeting. And Reb Velvele refused to throw him out, and he said that we learn the concept of Elokim Yivakesh et Nirdaf, that if you, as the Mefarshim said, Afilu Rodef Tzadik v'Nirdaf Rasha. That's a rule not to embarrass people. The fascinating story about Geon Israel, Sdei Chemed. The story goes by this Sdei Chemed that when he was a young man, he was kind of mediocre, if I may say, avrech, but was a very affluent person that supported the kollel. And one day was a fellow that was very jealous of him, so he spread an untrue rumor that he had some type of affair with a maid, the non-Jewish maid that served the wealthy person's house. So the wealthy person, before he makes decision, was smart enough. He went to the Beit HaMidrash and he looked at the face of this big Talmid Chacham, this Sdei Chemed, and he noticed that it's nothing true by that. So he went there, since the non-Jewish employee claimed, and he interrogated her, and it turned to be untruth, so he fired her. So then she lost twice, because she lost her job for lying, but also the money that fellow gave her wasn't good for a long time. So then she came back, and she asked for forgiveness, and she asked this Sdei Chemed, she said, I don't mind to publicize who is the person who paid me money to lie and to say that I have an affair with you. So the Sdei Chemed said, look, the Chilul Hashem, the desecration of name of God already happened. And to add more fire, it doesn't accomplish anything. So he said, what I can do for you, I can talk to this very wealthy individual that supported the community to have you back as employee. He can take you back or not. But to go in public and you promulgate the person who committed that sin and did something like that, that's something I do not want to do. I just want to let it go and move on. And he wrote that one of the miracles happens, that's what they said, that right after that day, suddenly he has such a heavenly assistance, and he became one of the leading ingenious Geon Israel, Baal Asder Chemetz. Fascinating story. Anyway. ורבי חייא מאיר חגמיר לה מרבי מאיר, דתניא מעשה באישה אחת שבאת לבית מדרשו של רבי מאיר, אמרה לו רבי אחד מכם קדשני בביאה. So the woman came to the Bet HaMidrash and she said, one of you betrothed me toward a intercourse. So as we said that biblically speaking, that's one of the options for a person to betroth a woman. Obviously it's a Talmudic time, but that's one of the kesef shtar bi'ah, one of the three things. So עמד רב מאיר וכתב לה גט כריתות נתן לה, עמדו כתבו כולם ונתנו לה. So all the students, imagine you have 100 of students, they all wrote for her the get in order not to embarrass the one that was there. So Or Samech explained that each and every get is basically independently said that she's basically divorced, and all of that they did in order to avoid the one who really did it. ורב מאיר מאיר חגמיר לה משמואל הקטן. Here again, this is the story about Shmuel HaKatan. They did not want to embarrass that judge that wasn't invited, and he put it on himself. Shmuel HaKatan me'ech hagamir, from here he learned it. This is a fascinating statement from the book of Ezra, chapter 10. Over there, the text said, Mishchania ben Yechiel dechtiv, when it was returned after Babylonian exile, when the 70 years completed, and Ezra went back with Nehemiah to Eretz Israel to rebuild the second Beit HaMikdash. ויען שכניה בן יחיאל מבני אlam ויאמר לעזרא, אנחנו מעלנו באלוקינו ונשב נשים נוכריות מעמי הארץ ותא יש מקווה לישראל על זאת. So here you have the list, and Shechania wasn't among them, so it means he wasn't one of those people that marry out of faith, but he put his name and incorporate with all of them in order not to embarrass others, and the Adrama said with the great hope that these people who did it should do tshuva. So the Rabbi Yonatan Eibishitz in his book Yaarot Dvash, he explains that that's basically the way we learn the story of Esther, because if you read the Gemarot, the Gemara in Megillah and others, they say that Mordechai married Esther. That's one of the versions. So again, that's the text said that she wasn't known as a Jewish. That's basically Hakdamat Refu'ah Lemakah, that because of that, no one knows that she is Jewish. Anyway, Ushchanya ben Yechiel me'echa Gemarrah miYoshua dechtiv, that after it was a terrible crisis, the 36 people die in the war of Ai, followed the war of Jericho. It was because of wicked men by the name of Achan, Al Ken Nekaveh Lecha, the second part of Aleinu Leshabeach, that they hold that he was the composer. So in the book of Yoshua, chapter 7 said, Vayomer Hashem liYoshua, Kam lach, lama ata ze nofel lapanecha chata Yisrael. So the truth is, Rabbi Yisrael Salander said, Kol Yisrael arevin ze lazeh. He used to say to his students, when you do not study here in this city in Lithuania, you cause another fellow to go astray in Paris. So the same way, here he didn't want to mention the specific, he just said Chata Yisrael general. Amar lefanav, Yoshua said before the Almighty, Rebbeinu Shalom mi chata, Amar lo v'chi dilatorani lechatel goralot. So in that sense, God said to him, what do you expect me to say, to tell you exactly who did it? I'm not a tellbearer, I'm not informer. Rather, cast lots to determine who is guilty. In this way, the Almighty did not directly disclose the identity of the sinner to Yehoshua. So the Chafetz Chaim explained in Ilchot Yisrael Lashon Hara chapter 10, you see it also in Be'er Mayim Chaim, that you have to always consider very carefully what exactly and how the story goes of the Divrei Chaim. He was a student of the Ropshitzer Rov. So they said that they, in our language in heaven, they announce when someone needs more zchuyot, more merits, but even though they don't go specific to say who did what, v'ibaitem Moshe dechtiv ad ana me'antem, even Moshe Rabbeinu know as a prophet of the prophets who did and what, he used the general term in the book of Shemot, chapter 16, for how long you refuse to keep my mitzvot and my laws. So even it was in a way small number of people that committed that collect manna on Shabbat. The way that the Almighty spoke to the entire nation is like guilty. He was not directly exposed those who really guilty. So the Marsha and Aruch Laner elaborates the difference between each and every one of them. But the Khatam Sofer in Parashat Ha'azinu, he explained that when he needs to have a public admonition, then is a strong language. But when he needs to rebuke individual, it's much softer. And he bring it from the Parashat Ha'azinu. The Torah said, Kis'irim alei deshe v'chirvivim alei esev. Kis'irim alei deshe, that's heavy rain. Kirvivim alei esev is like the dew, which means the dew, it's soft, otherwise it ruins the grass. So that's a different approach when you need to express a word of admonition. The next one is the Yeridat Hadorot, the descendants of the generation, which is the highest level of prophecy, goes down, down, down to Ruach HaKodesh, to Bat Kol, different level of and obviously when it's a Bat Kol, the rabbi said it's like resonant of voice that the Rekanati explained. It's basically each person according to his darga, to his level. The great Talmud Dvorah also explained that it's all depend upon the merit of a person. תנו רבנן משמתו נביאים האחרונים חגי זכריה ומלאכי נסתלקה רוח הקודש מישראל. So the Meiri explained the same as we read about Yaakov Avinu, that the divine providence dwell only on those who are in a state of gladness and joyous, etc., etc., and those who are in a state of sadness. Since the Gemara in Shabbat, page 30, he said that it was under the evil rulers, so therefore it was taken the level of understanding and prophecy. But even though they still don't hear clearly the voice, but they use kind of they hear, the Gemara in Megillah 31 said that they can hear the voice of heaven, and as we said that it's a different level. There's a book called Imrei Bina that Maratz Chayu that he explained at length. You see it, Shut Min HaShamayim from Rav Reuven Margaliot and others that talk a different level of gradation, how people can hear. They said about the Rabbeinu Chaim ben Atar, the Dor HaChaim HaKadosh, they said that the words can basically sanctify the person. I heard a story, my son reminded me, Eli, the other day, of a grandpa, Rabbi Yehuda Tzvi Brandwein. He close the end of his short life. He was a huge Kabbalist, but he was Rav of Histadrut. He was the rabbi of the, you may say, the labor organization in Israel. And he was a Chavruta and a student of Rabbi Ashlag and a great Kabbalists. So the story goes, when people don't really take his word seriously and listen, he used to open the Zohar and start reading to them the Zohar. So even in that sense, they don't understand his Aramaic readings, but it was the permeation of the sacredness of the words changed their heart for better. My great-grandfather, the Noam Elimelech, Rabbi Elimelech Weisblum of Lizhensk, he said from the Magid, from his teacher, the Magid of Mezrich, he said it in, I think, in Parshat Vayetze. He said that that in a way the Almighty, the divine providence is Imo Anochi Batzara, there is no Beit HaMikdash, so in our way, our language, anthropomorphic, the king is not in a palace, it's out there. So when the king is out there with the people, it's kind of relative to reach the king, and therefore hear this divine providence. You need to open your heart and mind and hear this small voice of God. Anyway, פעם אחת היו מסובין בעליית בית גוריה ביריחו וניתנה להם בת קול מן השמיים. Sometimes the sages get together in that location and they heard a voice from heaven that said, יש כאן אחד שראוי שתשרה עליו שכינה כמשה רבינו, שאין דורו זכאי לכך. There is one fellow that deserves to have the divine providence upon him, but unfortunately the generation is not merited to have that. נתנו חכמים את עיניהם בהלל הזקן. So the sages look upon the הלל הזקן that he lived for 120, and the Sifri said in Dvarim 34 that he led the people for 40 years, and the Gemara in Shabbat 31 said that he was the epitome, the paragon of excellent, of being a humble leader, the Maharsha said. So anyway, so כשמת אמרו עליו חסיד, היי חסיד, היי ענב, תלמידו של עזרא. So again, that's expression that the same way as Ezra left Bavel and went to Eretz Israel and was the cause for people to break up with a non-Jewish spouse, to close the stores on Shabbat and more, the same way as Hillel HaZaken that came from Bavel to Eretz Israel, and the Maharsha said that he revivified the world of Torah. The Ben Ish Chai, the Ben Yehuda elaborates, we running out of time. שוב פעם אחת היו מסובין בעלייה ביבנה וניתנה להם בת קול מן השמיים, שיש כאן אחד שראוי שתשרה עליו שכינה שאין דורו זכאי לכך. כשמת אמרו עליו היי חסיד, היי ענב, תלמידו של הלל. So that's the שמואל. אף הוא אמר בשעת מיתתו שמעון וישמעאל לחרבה. So he predicted the 10 martyrs, רבן שמעון גמליאל נשיא, רבי שמעון בן אלישע הכהן, that they die by the sword, וחברוי לקטלה, that's רבי עקיבא, חנינא בן תרדיון, the 10 martyrs, that the way they died and how they died, it's frightening Gemara in Avodah Zarah 18, which we read during the Musaf of Yom Kippur, ושאר עמיה לבייזה, והכאן סגיין עתידן למיתה על עלמה. That's very proper to our days, the 9 days, the times before Tisha B'Av. ואף על רבי יהודה בן בבא ביקשו לומר בן, אלא שנטרפה שעה, because he was among the 10 martyrs, as the Gemara will tell us, the Maharsha said on page 14, שאין מספידין להרוגי מלכות. It's one of the concepts, when it's come to those righteous people, the opportunity was lost, as one does not eulogize those executed by the government. As we explained on page 14, Yehuda ben Bava was executed by the evil government. The simple reason is because the king gave a special consent, a special permission to bury him after that. So therefore, we don't give him an excuse to do such a thing, to postpone, or like the Adama said that it appear like they give a respect or honor to someone who's the enemy of the king, so the people who eulogize can be arrested. So anyway, that's way more than understanding, like is a famous Kabbalistic interpretation that they are transmigration of the 10 brothers of Joseph, and it was kind of heavenly, if I may say, opportunity of repair past life by coming back as the 10 martyrs. Anyway, תנו רבנן, אין מעברים את השנה אלא אם כן ירצה נשיא. Only if the Rosh Sanhedrin, the head of the Sanhedrin, agreed, so then they do a peer. ומעשה ברבן גמליאל שלח ליטול רשות אצל שלטון אחד שבסוריה ושאל לבוא ועברו את השנה על מנת שירצה רבן גמליאל. וכשבא רבן גמליאל ואמר רוצה אני, נמצאת שנה מעוברת. So that's the reason why you don't need another ruling. תנו רבנן מעברים את השנה אלא אם כן הייתה צריכה מפני הדרכים ומפני הגשרים, מפני תנורי פסחים ומפני גלויות ישראל שנעקרו ממקומם ועדיין לא הגיעו, אבל לא מפני השלג ולא מפני הצינה ומפני גלות שישראל שלא עקרו ממקומם. So again, the whole idea of making it is they have to have a reason to do it. Here is the word of the Rambam, Ilchot Kiddush HaChodesh, chapter 4. Besides those considerations indicated by the Torah, there are other considerations that justify the Ibur HaShana, the make the year a leap year. These include if the roads are in despair for the festival pilgrim, if bridges have been damaged, if ovens for the Paschal offering for the Pesach have been damaged by the rains, and due to delays that prevents festival pilgrims already on the roads from reaching Yerushalayim on time. So as we see, it's always a reason, otherwise you don't do that. תנו רבנן מעברים את השנה לא מפני הגדיים ולא מפני הטלאים ולא מפני הגוזלות שלא לא פרחו, because you don't bring an offering those small, too small dove, אבל עושים אותם סעד לשנה. But you made supporting factor in the decision to make it a leap of the year. כיצד? How? רבי ינאי אומר משום רבן שמעון גמליאל מהודעין אנחנה לכון, to make a clear declaration, we are not notifying you that the idea that the gozalaya rakichin ve'imraya de'adkin, that those small doves and they are tender, וזימנה דאביבה לא מתה, so and the lambs are thin and the time for the spring has not yet arrived. ושפרת מילתה באנפאי והוסיפית על שתה דת לטין יומין. So consequently the matter is good in my eyes, and I have therefore add 30 days into the year. So that's the whole idea, the Sa'ad Lashana. That's the word of the Rambam, Hilchot Kiddush HaChodesh, chapter 4. There are some considerations that do not justify making a leap year, but these may be cited as support to the additional one, to the already mandate for another reason. For example, if the young goats and lambs are few and tender, or if the feathering doves are not yet ready to fly, etc. So they're too small, therefore it's not befitting, so that's the reason why he add 30 days. So the Gemara challenged the end of the Braita, Meitive, Kama Ibur Ashana. The question is, the whole idea of the month of Adar, you make it Meuber, so how long is the additional month of the year? Rabban Shimon Gamliel Omer, Chodesh, which is 29 days. Amar Rav Papa, the previous one we said that is 30 days, so it's a contradiction. Amar Rav Papa, Chodesh Ratzu 30 Yom. So it means that Rabban Gamliel holds that if the rabbinic court wants, it may add a standard month, and if it wants, it may add a month of 30 days. So the previous Braita is just as an example. So now they juxtapose the word of Rabban Shimon Gamliel to what he said earlier. Tachazi, come and see, my ika bain, what exactly the difference between the earlier, the stern authority, and the later, the humble authorities. So it's a big disputation among the Mefarshim, what exactly the Turei Even and others deal with this statement. 11b, Takifa'ei Kadma'ei Le'in Vetanei Batra'ei. So the Gemara in Bchorot, page 36, said, in a way, as much as Rabban Gamliel was kind of authority and he was very strong with the students and more, we studied also in Brachot 27, Rosh Hashanah 25, but he incorporated himself with everyone else, with all of his colleagues and friends, versus his son, Rabban Shimon, Gemara in Bava Metzia 85 said that he was kind of nice and humble, yet he did not include himself with everyone else. So again, as you see, that it's in a way denigration or descendants of the kind of holiness of the generation. Tanya, מעשה ברבן גמליאל שהיה יושב על גב מעלה בהר הבית. So here is a story about Rabban Gamliel that step on the Temple Mount. So the idea is that you see it in She'elat Ya'avetz, say that because it was, even the temple destroys how proper it is, we're getting close to Tisha B'Av, but at that time, because the temple destroyed, he still felt that is some of the abode of the omnipresence, the divine providence, sacredness is still over there, so therefore he rules there. But anyway, והיה יוחנן סופר הלז, so the Margaliot Hayam bring a Rashi on the Daniel chapter 8, verse 15, that said that he was the most prominent, important, respected, erudite scribe. עומד לפניו ושלוש איגרות חתוכות לפניו מונחות, that it was a 3 pieces of parchment, blank documents cut from parchment that ready for writing were set before him. אמר לו, רבן גמליאל said to the scribe, טול איגרתה חדה, take one of the letter, parchment letter, וכתוב לאחנה בני גילה הילה ולאחנה בני גילה תתאה. So to our brethren in the highest northern part of Galilee and southern part of Galilee, שלומכון יסגה, bless upon you, peace upon you, ומהודאין אנחנו לכון, we are declared for you, בזמן ביאורה מטה. So as we said many times, the time of Eretz Yisrael, the crop is a circle of 7 years. We have 6 years, the Shmitot, the first one is the Levi, the second one, the first, the second, fourth and fifth year, the owner eats the tithe in Yerushalayim, the third and sixth they give it to the indigent, and then it's called the poor year, Maaser Ani, the seventh is a sabbatical year. So the Torah rules that the eve of Pesach in those third and sixth year, that's the time of Bi'ur Ma'asrot, that's the time that you have to eradicate the tithe that has been separated from the produce, but yet not given to the designated recipients, because it has to be in the fourth and the seventh year of that sabbatical year cycle. ותול איגרתה להפרוש שמעשנה ממעתנה דזיתה. So you have to take a tithe from the place that the vat of olives, because most of the local olives were grown in the Galilee. And he continued, Rabban Gamliel, and he said, ותול איגרתה חדה וכתוב לאחנה בני דרומה. This is for the people who live in the southern part of Israel. שלומכון יסגה מודעין אנחנו לכון, בזמן ביאורם מטה להפרוש שמעשרה מאומרי שיבליה. So this is the time that you have to take a tithe from the mounds of stalks of grain, because most of the local grain was grown in Judea region, which is the south. ותול איגרתה חדה וכתוב להכנה בני גלבתה בבבל, להכנה למדע ולשאר כל גלבתה בישראל, all the other people in the diaspora, Jewish diaspora, שלומכון יסגה לעולם מודיעין אנחנו לכון דגוזלי הרקיחים ואמרי עדקים וזמנה דאביבה לא מטה. So because as we said earlier that they're all too young and it's not the time of completion of the readiness of the crops, the lamparting, the time for the spring has not come, and consequently ושפרה מילתה באנפאי ובאנפי חברי והוסיפת הרשתה דה יומין קלטים. So the matter was good in the eye of me and our estimated colleagues, the erudite colleagues, and consequently we add, I as the head of the rabbinic court, add with the others concerned 30 days to this year. So that basically was the third letter. So in a way he warned them to celebrate the Passover in the proper time, which is the springtime, which means you should not come to eat matzah and Pesach if it's a time of the month that it's a leap year. Rashi said that otherwise they hear it independently, and therefore and the Gemara rejected this, and he said, Dilma batar de abruhu. This incident occurred after they deposed Rabban Gamliel from his position as the Nasi, as the president. So when he was reinstated, he shared his office with Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah, and therefore he wrote the decision in the name of his colleagues as well. So in a way it's a rejection that he wasn't his honor. And Rashi said maybe it's a result of that he became an honor. But that's a Gemara in Brachot 27-28 that he wasn't so patient and humble at the beginning.